All right, church, let's sing a song together. You can stand if you want, but nobody's gonna make you. All right, let's do it. Spirit of Life, number 123. Can stand. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Good morning. Welcome, everyone, and let me start by welcoming Olivia Brownlee back with us as our guest song leader today. Thank you so much. It's always great to have you and to hear you. Yeah, thank you. And welcome to one and all to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where we join together to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world. Or, as we like to say in short, to create community, find meaning, and live justly. As always, I want to begin by welcoming all of you here to this space, all that you bring with you, your unique beliefs and background and lifestyle and experiences, your differences, all that helps make you who you are is welcome here this morning. And this includes the horde that is in the room with us this morning, as well as the many of you who are live streaming with us. And hey, Zooming, we've got some Zoomers with us too, so great to have all of you. We'll check in with you in just a second. I did want to make note that we will probably have fewer people here than usual our first service. You may have noticed it's set up for a luncheon, which is our kickoff luncheon for our annual pledge campaign. You'll hear more about that in just a minute, but I invite any of you who want to come back for that after our second service who are here this morning, you'd be welcome to. Those of you who are live streaming with us who are local, you'd be welcome to come as well. And for those of you that are more distant, please be with us in spirit. Wish you could be here as well. Okay, I also want to make a point that the candle over my shoulder is actually a lit candle. Well, this is always difficult for me to explain because when we switch to the electronic candles, some folks have said, why can't we have real candles? And they are real candles. They're made out of real wax, and they have real photons illuminating from them. So this is a wax candle with a flame, yeah. This is the philosopher in me being unable to communicate because I don't know how to express this reality. Bottom line is, our wonderful partners in Felshiracos, Romania, who we've been connected with since the early 1980s, they light a candle similar to this each Sunday on behalf of our partnership during their services. And they sent us a candle, this candle, as a gift. And so we've committed to lighting it in this special place, this Harold Bellay's piece of artwork, on the first Sunday of each month is a way of remembering them. So if our friends in Fel Shirakos are watching this, might be a little late for you, but if you watch the recording, please know that we appreciate you thinking of us and that we are thinking of you as well. Okay. I do want to welcome our Zoom attendees, since I see some of them online with us.
Hello.
Hey, Gail, thanks again for sticking it out. I know there have been some technical difficulties. There often are, but this was due to Well, how's everybody doing today? It's good to see your faces. I'm looking over my shoulder, but there's a few enough of you today.
Yeah,
Looks like
we have a couple of our
go ahead, Gail.
Canadian friends.
Why doesn't everybody
Jan.
take just a minute to let us know where you're from?
Well, we're from Edmonton.
And because not everybody recognizes you or can see you as well as I can, and then tell us where you're from.
Okay, I'm GP, and this is my wife, Alexis.
Great to have you both.
Thank you.
Has it warmed up in Edmonton like it has here in Spokane, or are you guys still pretty cold up there?
Well, it depends on your perspective. It's quite lovely. It's probably going up to 5 degrees Celsius today,
Oh, nice.
which is nice.
Good.
A good sign.
All right, who else? Go ahead. Just jump in.
Ed Hudak,
Hey, Ed.
Eno, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, man. Great to have you. Go ahead. Go ahead. Don't be shy.
Carolyn Kittle, Alamogordo, New Mexico.
Wow.
New Mexico.
Great to have you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jan, how about you?
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, I'm Janet from Snohomish, Washington, just north of Seattle.
Yes, great.
And I'm Jim Anderson, about 20 feet above Jan.
Great to see you.
I'm Lorene Hale from Corvallis, Oregon, and I am getting massive feedback repeating. Is anyone else experiencing that?
We're not experiencing it on this end.
Yeah, we have it here.
Okay, could be somebody has an extra microphone on or well, you can mute yourselves probably after you speak, and that might solve that. Okay, Ron, you're from Port Townsend. Gail is in Port Townsend, am I correct? Yep. And then who else has joined us? Oh, Jack. Jack, let us know where you're from. Jack's muted. There you go. We can't hear you, Jack, but we're glad you're here. Yeah, I would suggest that you mute yourselves unless you need to speak, and then that way, that hopefully will get rid of that echo that sometimes occurs on Zoom. But anyway, it's great to have all of you joining us this morning, and good to see that more folks are even popping in even as we get started here. So hopefully the technical issues will be non-existent or at a bare minimum. Okay, before I introduce Lynn, I do, as part of our first service tradition, like to share a doggy truth for the doggy lovers among us. Last week, I think we snuck a cat reference in by accident, but we'll forgive ourselves for that. So here is today's. It's brief, but a very true adage. Nothing in the world is friendlier than a wet dog. Okay, before we take a few seconds to greet one another, I'm going to ask Lynn to come forward and talk a little bit more about our stewardship campaign.
He's right. It is our annual generosity campaign, and it is officially underway. So today, after our second service, our social activities team, Michelle Atwood and Lynn Diddens, are hosting our special luncheon. I talked about it a little bit last week. To kick things off, lunch will be provided and donations will be gladly accepted. And also, as I mentioned last week, thanks to the generosity of Tom and Mary Mosier, every dollar that's placed in that donation basket today will be matched and added to our church's operations fund. So if you'd like to contribute, but can't attend the luncheon, I had a few people ask me how they could get Tom and Mary Mosier to pay a little bit more, even if they weren't going to be here. You can do that by going to our website and making a donation that way, and just note match the basket. And Rebecca will know where that's supposed to go then. I do want to just add that completing our annual pledges, whether we are members or friends or regular visitors to this church, really does help us plan wisely, setting our budget and our priorities in a way that reflects our values and our hopes that we share as a community. And we like to do that every year, whether or not you have an ongoing pledge that just keeps coming out of your bank account, or you put it in your basket every month, or our basket, however it is that you choose to do that. If you would still take the time to fill out a pledge form, whether you do that here or online, it really does help us plan for that budget in the next coming fiscal year. Our pledge forms will be available back on the little treasure chest back there, and a place to put them. They're available online, and so they're available also here at the luncheon. And be sure to stop by and see our tree, our kiosk. It's on the kiosk in the Friendship Hall. It's already beginning to sprout leaves from the pledges that we received earlier in the week. If you turn in your pledge form today, you can either put up one of the pre-made leaves that were cut out by our RE kiddos last week, or you can cut your own leaf out if you want to do that. Okay, so I'll see you at the luncheon. Thank you, everyone.
All right, we've already taken a good bit of our opening this morning, but let's take just a couple of minutes more to greet one another this morning.
Okay, that's an opportunity for us. All right, let's move forward now by lighting our chalice, the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need, and may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost,
and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
As we begin our service this morning and kick off our annual generosity campaign, we invite you to reflect on a simple but meaningful question. What brings you here? It's the theme of our campaign this year, and it's also the title of the beautiful song we're about to hear, written and performed by Sarah Thompson. Let this music be a gift to you, an invitation to remember where we've been together, to dream about where we're going, and to reflect on what brings you here, to this place, to this community, and to this moment.
I remember we met in that valley with mountains all around and a river flowing gently down. I remember the night we went walking, the stars were shining bright. We were talking long and feeling right. And then when the leaves started falling, yellow carpet on the ground, something was lost and something found. You started asking a lot of questions, and I was slow in answering. You said, what brings you here? What are you dreaming of? Where have you been? Where are you going? And then we began on a journey. We traveled down that mountainside, across the land to that eastern ocean tide, and we settled in to that city. As many people as there are stars, some with dreams, some with greed, many with battle scars. And in that place where tall buildings and concrete cover up the ground, some things were lost and some things found. I started asking you some questions. You weren't slow in answering. I said, what brings you here? What are you dreaming of? Where have you been? Where are you going? And then the time came to leave that city and its life behind, letting go of the cruel, holding on to the kind. And we traveled west, traveled north, till we found a healing place by a lake deep and wide as heaven's grace. And the people we met, they were trying to keep soft hearts in a world hard and cold, seeking justice and peace like some seek gold. We keep asking a lot of questions, trying together to find the answers. We say, what brings us here? What are we dreaming of? Look where we've been. how I love you so. And we're singing, what brings you here, people? What are you dreaming of? Where have you been? Where are you going? What brings you here?
We're going to sing another one. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, a long way from home, a long, long way from home. You can sing along. Sometimes I feel like I have no friend. Sometimes I feel like I have no friend. Sometimes I feel like I have no friend. A long way from home, a long, long way from home. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. A long way from home. A long, long way from home.
Thank you so much. And Lynn, remind me of the name of the artist again. Sarah Thompson. We want to thank Sarah Thompson for actually giving us permission to play that song. Our license allows us to perform many songs that are copyrighted, but not to actually broadcast recordings of copyrighted material. But she gave us permission to do that. Very generous of her to let us use that as the theme for our pledge campaign. We are hoping that we're working on a plan where we won't have to do pledge campaigns in the future. We're thinking of charging the Catholics, Baptists, and the folks across the street tariffs in order to. I think we're going to have money hand over fist when that happens. So. But for now, we'll stick with the stewardship campaign. Okay, we are going to kindle our candles of care for those that we are most thinking of today, and want to begin with a candle of celebration for Gordon Diddens. Gordon was our lay leader last week. For those who want to put a face with the name, his birthday, I believe, is today, and I think I can say his age because his spouse Lynn asked me to, so he's turning 75. I can't believe it. I said, I cannot believe he is almost 15 years my senior. So, but young at heart and young in looks as well. So happy birthday to Gordon. I think during our second service we'll be able to even wish him, sing him happy birthday. So Also want to, as we have been, kindle a candle on behalf of the people of Ukraine and that region of the world that are suffering from the war and violence there, as well as the people of Israel and the Palestinian people. I hope I don't get hauled off for being a terrorist for saying that, but my God, it's absolutely terrible what is happening in Gaza right now. And I think the escalation of the demolition and the occupation of that territory is a direct result of the permission that Donald Trump gave to remove the Palestinians and to turn that place into a resort. And the horror of living in a country where people are pulled off of the streets and exiled because they took place in protest of what's going on there and are being labeled terrorists for that purpose. We have to kindle a candle for those who are suffering the consequences of what's going on, which ultimately is all of us living in this country and the uncertainty and the fear. So I kindle a lot of those candles just for us and our attempt to cope with this bizarre world, these bizarre circumstances, hopefully short-lived circumstances that we're in today. And let's take a moment of silence on behalf of others that you might be thinking of, and as always, you're welcome to name them aloud at this time if you like. Those named aloud, those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion. And we now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which helps sustain this community and our mission to the larger world.
This song is actually meant for 3 voices, 3 singers, 3 characters, and a marching horn band. So you'll have to use your imagination.
Creeping down the hall, keeping close to the wall, hear a floorboard crack and a bobby pin fall. Give it a minute and holding a breath, and you're winking, you're thinking you're cheating on death, and take another step. Get ready for the shitstorm, let loose, lady, won't you get lit? Maybe say leaving the house isn't leaving the sin. The light blew out when the weather blew in. I wanted bread and you wanted gin, with the wilder the weather on the way. Ooh, where you going? I see you got your stealth on. You're silencing and severing every tie you got. You burning bridges quite a lot. And how do you feel now? Take a bow, you got shot through the eyebrow. Wow, leaving the house isn't leaving the sin. The light blew out when the weather blew in. I wanted bread and you wanted gin, with the wilder the weather on the way. Take a break, baby, why you be hating on me? Take a break, baby, why you be hating on me? Take a break, baby, why you be hating on me? Ooh, you're taking and breaking and faking away. You're taking and breaking
leaving the sin. The light blew out when the weather blew in. You wanted bread and you wanted gin. With the wilder the weather, I'm leaving the house. It isn't leaving the sin. The light blew out when the weather blew in. I wanted bread and I wanted gin. With the wilder the weather, do we have to? Yes, we have to stay together with the weather. Ooh, on the way.
We're going to move past our time for all ages today, so we have a little more time for Olivia's music and our sermon. As we move into a time of meditation, before we enter into silence, let us consider this challenge from the Stoic philosopher Epictetus. How long are you going to wait before you demand the best of yourself? This is not a call to self-judgment, but to self-truth. To stop waiting for the right moment, to stop pretending we don't know what needs attention, not perfection, not someone else's version of you, but your best, the honest, courageous, wholehearted self you're capable of being.
I baked you a sorry cake to try to cure my bellyache. I made plenty of mistakes, but my only crime was telling you I'm fine when I was not fine. I made you a sorry blade to try to make my conscience fade. I made plenty of mistakes, but my only crime was telling you I'm fine when I was not fine.
Olivia, thank you so much. I am always just amazed by your talent, not only as a musician and a vocalist, but that you write these songs yourself. They're just incredible. Yeah. A lot of papers up here today. Cypher is a character in the 1999 blockbuster film The Matrix. I can't believe it's been that long ago. Cypher has awakened from a false reality to see the world as it truly is, which is dreary and miserable. In the end, he betrays his friends so that he can return to his state of delusion. I know this steak doesn't exist, he tells his subjugators over a virtual meal. I know that when I put it in my mouth, the matrix is telling my brain that it's juicy and delicious. After 9 years, you know what I realize? Ignorance is bliss. I don't want to remember nothing. Nothing. Okay, get my body back in the power plant, reinsert me into the matrix. In Plato's allegory of the cave, the original Matrix story, prisoners who have been chained within a dark cave for their entire lives, knowing of no other reality, murder the one inmate who has escaped and discovered the real world before returning to lead them out of captivity. It is one matter to deceive others, but to deceive ourselves by intentionally ignoring and resisting what is true and real isn't just a betrayal of our friends, as in the Matrix, or the abandonment of our society, as in Plato's allegory. It is self-deception. It is a betrayal of one's self. Yet how many of us prefer it this way? How many, like the Cypher character or Plato's prisoners, prefer our lies to the truth, our delusions to reality? How many would rather remain blind than see? We prefer to deceive ourselves because our fantasies, like Cypher's imaginary steak, are often easier to swallow than reality. Delusion is a psychological coping mechanism, which is why most mental illnesses are dissociative in nature, meaning that they enable us to break from reality, to avoid it, to enter the matrix, to stay in the cave, even if it means betraying the truth and attacking the truth tellers. I will submit that most of us prefer lies to the truth much of the time. Life is hard. Deciphering the truth is difficult and uncertain compared to the false certainty and security of self-deception. Falsehood is easy because it is negatively and positively reinforced by our families, by our friends, by our society. Ascribing to the status quo secures our place amongst others. It gives us a sense of belonging and reassurances that we will have access to the benefits of society so long as we go along with the crowd. It is the truth tellers, the whistleblowers, those who dare say, "Look, the emperor has no clothes," who are most likely to find themselves on the outs, silenced, ostracized, and unemployable. So, the fear of truth isn't entirely unreasonable. There are sound reasons for sometimes keeping our mouths shut. Yet it is one thing to keep what we think to ourselves, and another thing to deny it even to ourselves. Each of us, according to psychologist Carl Jung, must put on a false face in the world, a psychological state that he called the persona, named after the mask once worn by ancient Greek actors. In order to move into the world, he said, we have need of a certain attitude or persona, the mask that we turn toward the world. Jung believed that the persona can be of some social utility so long as we ourselves don't mistake it for our authentic self that is behind the mask. Yet in doing all their small tasks, he said, most people believe that they are their masks and thus become neurotic. That's when our dissociative and delusional states form, when our social masks deceive even ourselves. If I should believe I was exactly what I am doing, it would be a terrible mistake. I would not fit that fellow, Jung said. As soon as I say that I am only playing a role for the time being to please you, I am all right. That's a very honest statement. As soon as I say that I'm only playing a role for the time being to please you, I'm all right. It's necessary to put on a public face, to hold back our feelings, to keep our thoughts to ourselves, to temper our words, to compromise, so long as we remain honest with ourselves about who we truly are, what we truly believe and feel. In other words, just don't lie to yourself. On the other hand, sometimes we must be brave enough to reveal our true face. We must risk being ourselves, risk taking a stand, speaking up and saying what we mean. Knowing when to wear our mask and when to take them off is related to the greatest source of human angst, the dilemma between freedom and belonging, between the authentic self and the social self. It is a chronic source of anxiety and a lifelong balancing act in which we continue to sometimes stumble and fall. I can't tell you exactly when to wear your mask and when to take it off, when to choose freedom rather than belonging. But whether it's on or off, just don't lie to yourself. Resist the easy way out by going through life ignoring what you know deep down is true and real, as Cypher does in The Matrix. Escaping from reality is not a healthy means of coping with life's challenges. At its worst, this can lead to serious dissociative disorders, causing individuals to break from reality, as I mentioned. For most, however, it means at a minimum being out of integrity with ourselves. It means living a life of self-deception. It means lying to ourselves. And that's what makes Cypher such a tragic character, because his name literally suggests that he has the ability to decipher the difference between what's real and what isn't, yet he consciously chooses to live an unconscious life. Coping with life's pain by denying it is one of the main reasons that we choose, consciously or unconsciously, to deceive ourselves. Another, again, is our need for belonging, our desire for companionship and social security. When it comes to finding acceptance, conformity is almost always an easier path than authenticity. And this is why most would choose belonging before their own freedom, like the prisoners in Plato's cave who kill their would-be liberator. Yet there is another, and I believe more pervasive, cause of self-deception that's hardest of all to overcome because it is hardwired into our very neurology: fear. Fear is considered one of our 6 primary emotions, the others being happiness, sadness, anger, disgust, and surprise. But unlike these others, fear has a special place in our brains. 2 almond-shaped nuggets called the amygdala, which are wired to the hippocampus, the area in our temporal lobe responsible for processing our emotions, among other functions. Authors Peter Diamandis and Stephen Kotler say it's our early warning system, an organ always on high alert whose job is to find anything in our environment that could threaten us. Anxious under normal conditions, once stimulated, the amygdala becomes hypervigilant. And this coincides with evolutionary psychology's theory that the most important question faced every day by all animals, including humans, is whether their immediate environment is dangerous or not. This is the question we ask ourselves whenever we find ourselves in new circumstances. And this instinctive fear of new environments, of unfamiliar circumstances, and of strangers is called neophobia, fear of the new, and is likely rooted in the rational fear that our primitive hunter-gatherer ancestors had wandering too far from the safety of the group, or of going alone onto or into untrodden territory. There's safety in numbers, in sticking to a well-traveled road. Although we don't face the same sorts of threats that they faced thousands of years ago today, we have inherited their neurology, which manifests as fear of the new and fear of being alone, fear of being without community, fear of not belonging. Feeling safer by going along than going alone additionally requires us to convince ourselves that the crowd must be right. We accomplish this by purging ourselves of any doubt about our shared ways and beliefs, and by ridding our community of any threatening outliers. In the process, we adopt a false sense of certainty that leads to a false sense of security. They are false because nothing in life is certain, and not even sticking to the tried and true, which will only work until it doesn't. Even if in our liberal church, I sometimes hear people complain, but that's the way we've always done it. Or behave as if any change is a moral crisis, even if it's just moving the furniture. Fortunately, this isn't so of most, but it does happen. And when it does, it's the primitive brain talking, not the liberal brain, not the liberated brain, not a free mind. In his book on being certain, neurologist Robert Burton says that certainty and similar states of knowing, but we know, arise out of an involuntary brain mechanism that, like love or anger, function independently of reason. I mean, this is an incredibly provocative, astonishing assertion that certainty is not a result of thinking, but of emotion. Burton goes on to say, in fact, the feeling of knowing and its kindred feelings should be considered as primary as the states of fear and anger. Fear, anger, certainty, all akin. In other words, when we feel sure that we're right, the only thing we might really be certain of is that we are having an emotional reaction, probably to something that frightens us, whether it is truly frightening or not. Fear of new ways combined with certainty of old ways kept our primitive ancestors safer than not in their world, which is why our brains have also evolved to reward us with dopamine, a neurotransmitter that makes us feel good when we are sure, and based on that certainty exhibit repetitive behaviors. And that's why habits, including habitual ways of thinking, become habits, because they are addictive. The thoughts we are certain of are addictive. They feel really good. So to summarize what I've said thus far, we have a greater tendency to deceive ourselves than not because we prefer belonging to freedom. We have brains that have evolved to make us fearful of anything new and that reward us for feeling certain, even when we're wrong. So, if we are psychologically and neurologically wired for self-deception, what can be done for us to live a life of self-integrity? To answer this, let's shift gears by considering some of the mechanisms that I have found helpful in my own effort to be honest, or more honest at least, with myself. Based upon what I've already said, the first mechanism may be self-evident. Learn to recognize the most obvious signs of self-deception, which are what? I'm going to have to start over again. Let me go back. Which are the feelings of certainty and fear. Did someone say fear? Yes. The feelings of certainty and fear. Those are great clues that we're deceiving ourselves. For example, there's currently a lot of fearful thinking about the advent of artificial intelligence. Right? It's something new. And this isn't to say that there aren't legitimate reasons for being cautious about its potential misuse. As Joseph Heller famously wrote in Catch-22, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they aren't after you. Fear has an important place in the survival of our species, which is why it has a special place in our brains. It's there to keep us safe by motivating us to proceed with caution or not to proceed at all. But when our beliefs are based on fear rather than reason, we need to re-examine them and be brave enough to explore other possibilities. The same goes for the feeling of certainty. The more certain we feel, the surer we can be that we are being irrational. Truth is a philosophical problem because we cannot, again, know anything with absolute certainty. This is why I often say, base your next leap of faith on your best educated guess. And this means researching the evidence for certain ideas and evaluating their logic, rather than relying on our feelings to drive us to our beliefs. But be careful of confirmation bias when you're researching, especially when doing research on the internet, where we can find an argument supporting just about anything that our feelings wish to be true. Always strive to base your beliefs on reliable evidence and sound reasoning, which is the second mechanism for having ideological integrity. Logic is a skill, and it is difficult to learn. But the most important part of being logical is really, really easy. Always ask, why? Yes, thank you. Always ask why. It's one of the first questions we learn to ask as children, sometimes annoyingly and incessantly so. It's also one of the first questions we are discouraged from asking. When we are told things like, don't question me, just do as I say, or because I said so. If you've been discouraged from asking why, I urge you to reclaim this intellectual prerequisite. Logic is also called reason for a reason, because it requires reasons for the ideas that we decide to believe. And asking why is the only means of obtaining those reasons and determining if an idea is sound or not. Because I said so is not a sound reason. Another mechanism for ideological integrity is learning to recognize some of the most basic logical fallacies. And there are several, so I'm going to mention those that I found to be the most common, especially these days, including among those on both the left and the right of things. First, especially nowadays, is the ad hominem fallacy, attack against the person, which occurs when, rather than arguing the merits of an idea, we simply attack the character and motives of those who hold them. Criticizing Elon Musk as an unelected billionaire, for example, has nothing to do with whether or not his ideas are right or wrong. If we are critical of what he's doing as head of the new Department of Government Efficiency, then we should stick to the facts, or in this case, the lack thereof. Right? Despite his claims that Doge has uncovered hundreds of billions of dollars, or at least over $100 billion, in waste and already saved billions, the agency has provided little proof that either is true, making it illogical to believe such claims. Right? We don't need to attack his character. We just need to see his evidence. For lack of evidence, what his claims are unreasonable to believe are so. As is vandalizing Tesla vehicles. It only proves that some people are extremely angry, but says nothing of the worth of their ideas. When Trump, on the other hand, plays on people's emotions, as he did prior to the election by making unsubstantiated claims about millions and millions, or as he says, millions and millions, of criminals invading our country, or that he is the only person who can prevent World War III and nuclear holocaust, or as he is now doing, claiming that his tariffs will make us wealthier than we can imagine. He's playing on our feelings, on both our worst fears and our greatest hopes. That's called the appeal to emotion, ad populum. And these claims are also illogical because he seldom, if ever, gives us any reasons why we should believe him, which makes them illogical to accept. Another common fallacy is raising a straw man, a quick and sometimes unnoticeable switch from the argument at hand to a similar argument that's easier to win. And if you're not careful, you'll not even realize you just got switched into a brand new argument. So Trump's now infamous attempt to manipulate, he's a great source for fallacies, by the way. I think maybe there's even a children's book out there already. I mean, we should do a children's book on fallacies with the president, you know. But his now infamous attempt to manipulate Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky during his visit to the White House not so long ago is a really good example. Based upon, by the way, I'm not mind reading here. I'm giving you my reasons why right now, okay? So based upon, I'm about to give you a premise, is basically what those words indicates about to happen. Based upon what transpired before their meetings, his conversation with and praise of Vladimir Putin, while blaming Zelensky for the war and calling him an authoritarian who was unelected, along with statements about obtaining Ukraine's mineral rights, it is therefore logical to conclude that Trump wanted to convince Zelensky to accept Putin's terms, which meant ceding what territory Russia had already taken and agreeing never to join NATO, and in exchange for Trump arranging this great deal, give the U.S. half of the country's mineral rights. Right? That's what that meeting was about. But the argument that Trump stated was quite different, the straw man. He simply asked Zelensky if he wanted peace and to save millions and millions of lives. Who could say no to that? Yet when Zelensky didn't take the bait, Trump and VP Vance pounced on him with ad hominem attacks. I hope most people saw that, because it's just so, if you learn to watch for these fallacies, you see them everywhere. And this was a great and pitiful and sad example. As I said, there are plenty of other fallacies, but I'm going to leave it with just those three, because they're really rampant right now. Ad hominem, appeal to emotion, and a straw man. Learn to see those. And for now, I will say, learn to see these fallacies in the thinking of others, but most importantly, learn to notice them in your own. Because that's what this is about, not deceiving ourselves. And this leads to another mechanism for avoiding self-deception. Explore the merits of those ideas you most disagree with. Explore the merits of those ideas you most disagree with. In other words, don't be a knee-jerk. Right? We all have a primitive instinct to automatically disagree with the ideas of those on the other side of an issue. Republicans automatically disagree with most anything a Democrat says, and vice versa. The same is true of liberals and conservatives in general, whether in the U.S. or other parts of the world. Yet, I have spent some time listening to a few conservative investors and economists lately whom I respect about the potential value of tariffs, trying to understand the thinking behind them. And although their arguments have not convinced me, I considered them with courage and with respect and with openness, and now have an appreciation for the role that tariffs have played, particularly in American history. I mean, I didn't know, for example, that tariffs are once what funded the federal government. There was no such thing as income tax. And when you hear Trump talking about raising tariffs and lowering income tax, that's the thinking behind it. Not going to work, because the world is different now, right? We're not isolated nations that can climb behind our borders, our imaginary borders, and become self-sufficient. Everything depends upon trade from places around the world. So it's not irrational. Tariffs are not rational today, but it's worth exploring those rather than just saying, "No, Trump wants tariffs, therefore they must be bad," which I fear happens all too often. And I'm not afraid of changing my mind, if that's where the evidence leads. In fact, I love evolving. I love my mind evolving. I love changing. I love feeling like I might be a little bit closer to something that is more true than what I thought in the past. That feels great to me. Now, getting back to the persona, right? The mask we wear in public in order to secure our place in society, I offer a final mechanism for avoiding self-deception. Don't sweat the small stuff, but be brave about the important stuff. As I said, we are always trying to juggle our competing need for both freedom and belonging. In order to belong, we need to compromise, which means not always getting our way, not always saying exactly what we think, and having to set aside our own desires at times. Learning to give and take is part of what it means to be in community. It's what it means to have healthy relationships. But when it comes to important matters, like our integrity and adhering to our core values, we need to express ourselves even at risk of offending others and finding ourselves ostracized and estranged. Just be careful not to inflate the small stuff into big stuff out of pride and selfishness. The matters that we stand up and stand out for ought to take real courage and selflessness, because our own comfort and welfare might be put at risk, and because we do so for something greater than ourselves, like the universal values we hold in the welfare of others. Those are the things we take the risk for. Those are the things we remove the mask for when necessary. We're wired to fear new ideas in new ways, and to go along with the crowd and not wander too far into unfamiliar territory. That's how our brains work. That's the belonging part of our psychology. Yet, we are also driven towards freedom, towards exploration and discovery, which is why our species now inhabits nearly every climate on Earth, except inside volcanoes, I think, and has even traveled into the crushing depths of the sea and upward into the lonely emptiness of space. That part of our psychology takes courage, just as it takes courage for us to live a life of intellectual integrity by doing our best not to deceive ourselves. So be brave, think well, and discover our world of wonders. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, let's sing a song. Yep, you can stand if you like. If you don't know it, you will soon. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world, building up a world. I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
As we prepare to go out into the world, people we say we are. The philosopher and psychoanalyst Erich Fromm wrote, "Integrity simply means not violating one's own identity. May we each be brave enough to ask, who am I when no one is watching? And may our actions match the answers we give. Amen, blessed be, salam alaikum, and shalom."